Am I the a-hole for making all the women in my family leave after showing up to my wedding wearing white? Posted by More Concern 3267. If you like these stories and want to see more, please like and subscribe. I'm male, 33, have a large family. Mostly aunts and female cousins aside from mom, stepmom, stepsister and grandmother. I don't know how to say this, but all those women I mentioned above are into teasing and joking. They formed a unit, which I admit is kind of toxic, and they'd tease and roast every new woman that enters the family by marriage by setting up tests to see if they deserve to be part of the family. Or roast their looks and styles to the point of breaking confidence and self-esteem down. Then after a few months of teasing, they'd announce that they'd finally welcomed them into the family. The newest member would join in on the teasing, too, which is crazy, as my dad says. When I first introduced my then girlfriend, now wife, I made it clear that I didn't want any of the women in the unit to come at her or harass her, not even with a single word. They went behind my back and roasted her looks and job, and I discovered they'd been doing it on Facebook. I had them apologize one by one after they gave the "we're just testing the water to see if she's capable of being part of the family" excuse. They didn't want to apologize, but once I said I wouldn't invite any of the units unless they apologized, including my mom, everyone immediately apologized and brought gifts for my wife. First of them was my stepmom and my sil. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. There was talk about the women in the family wanting to pull a prank on my wife by wearing white and called it the ultimate test to see how my wife reacted. My brother warned me, so I announced that if any one of them showed up in white, I'd have them kicked out, including mom. They said this wasn't true and they'd never do such a thing. But they showed up to my wedding one by one wearing white dresses, and each and every one of them was told to leave after they tried giving excuses by either making scenes or getting the men involved. The senior women of the unit, who are mom and aunts, also showed up in white but refused to leave. I threatened to take harsher action, and mom was pissed, telling me to step aside, but I didn't let her in. I had her leave while the men in the family were watching stunned. Dad was on my side and supported me a lot. I felt absolutely awful because my wedding was being interrupted by them making scenes. My wife was hurt beyond measure, but the women in the family were pissed. My cousin blasted me on social media later, saying I excluded all the women from the wedding because my wife was so insecure she couldn't handle another woman's presence at her wedding. I had an argument with them, and mom berated me, saying it was supposed to be a prank, but I said they were taking it too far. Mom said I took it too far by kicking them out because they were trying to get a reaction from my wife to see if she was one of those bridezillas and were going to change soon as the prank was over, but I ruined my own and entire wedding by reacting so aggressively. I stopped talking after she said I had to bring my wife and apologize. I haven't seen a lot of them in 2 weeks, and they've excluded me from everything. Website for how I handled this. I just want to explain that this has been happening for years. The men in the family are split on this behavior. Some of them encourage it, like my uncle and my cousin's husbands, one is now an ex, and some are against it, like me and my dad and brother. The women claim that there's nothing hurtful in what they do because they claim they're just looking out for us men and that their goal ultimately is to make sure the women who enter the family are decent. My dad always ends up arguing with my mom and grandmother since they're the ones who started this whole thing with their behavior and attitude towards other women. And I'm not sure if I should mention this, but my male cousin, who's a middle schooler, said he'd make sure to leave the country before even meeting any woman because of this, and it made me chuckle. Also, the dresses they showed up in were simple white dresses, nothing over the top but still were white dresses. I realized they went ahead with their plans even after I stated what I'd do in that case. And now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your family is toxic, and I am so sad for your wife that they would do that, but also so happy for her that she has a husband who will support her and have her back. I'm sorry your family tried to hijack your wedding for a power play, but you did the right thing, and your marriage will be stronger because of it. Not the a-hole. This level of hazing has crossed the line to emotional abuse and blackmail. And that is probably understating it. It's very good you stood up for your spouse. You handled it well, but emotional blackmailers use family to pressure the victims into compliance with the abuse. Most often, when standing up to familial emotional blackmailers, It ends with force no co not the aholic for non-compliance. No co not the aholic is healthier, but it can be hard to be shunned from the family. Not the a-hole. What is going on with the women in your family, and how did you come out so normal and with such healthy boundaries? If I had been your wife, I would have gotten into a fistfight with your mother and aunts by now, so I commend her class and patience. Your mother is frankly being a terrible mother by treating your wife like this. What happens when you have a daughter? Is she going to get tested also? This behavior is so bizarre and immature. When, not if, your mother decides to co-not the aholic you again, tell her she's had her fun. But it's time to grow up and learn how to behave normally. It's a family, not a sorority, and if she wants to be allowed to see her future grandkids, she needs to smarten up. She's missing out on having your wonderful wife as a daughter and friend, and she will miss out on more if she continues to be toxic. I think you're completely justified in everything you did. And now for our next story. Am I the a-hole? I told a man he was too old to have a toddler. Posted by rough_currency. I, 51F, recently went on a date with a 54M. I knew he had 2 kids. While we were eating, he told me their ages, 32F and 3M. That's a deal breaker to me. At my age with grown kids, 25M and 26F, the last thing I want to be bothered with is a man with a toddler and all the potential drama. The mom is 30. I went on with the date because I was having fun. When it was over, I had every intention of letting things just fade away. Yes, I can be passive aggressive. Well, he called a couple of days later, wanting to go out again. I tried the whole I'm not ready thing, but he kept trying. Finally, I told him that the fact that he has a toddler is a deal breaker. Too much possible drama, and I am way too old for that, hint hint. He told me I was hypocritical since I was a single mom. I said, a single mom of 2 grown kids. He kept repeating himself, and I kept repeating myself. Finally, I told him that having a baby at 51 shows a stunning lack of judgment that I don't need in my world. He was quiet for a minute, told me that was a messed up thing to say. He told me I should have told him that before he paid for my dinner and that it was a bitch move, then hung up. Am I the a-hole? And now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. How the hell is he gonna raise a toddler when he doesn't understand the word no at his age? Not the a-hole. He didn't take your no for an answer and pushed and pushed. Men who can't take rejection well are immature. Not the a-hole. Did everyone expect you to act gracefully and perfectly when the dude wouldn't let up? You tried to be tactful and spare his feelings, and he still wasn't satisfied. Apparently, it's okay to try to talk a woman out of rejecting you. And now for our next story. Am I the a-hole for what I said when my husband told his family, basically, I handle everything in the house? Posted by DeBoss_Ida. So, I, F/26 and my husband, M/29, recently got married. We both contribute to household chores, but me more than him. Even after we made the separate schedule and split chores equally, he'd ask me for favors like fixing the kitchen faucet for him, deal with the bugs in the backyard, etc., which are originally his chores, but because he said he had to finish work or complain from being tired, then I'd handle them happily and without hesitation. We were visiting his parents for the first time since we got married. My Mill and I were talking about home duties and whatnot. My Phil asked my husband how married life was treating him, and my husband sighed and said, "Oh man." Then started talking about how exhausted he was from handling almost all responsibilities. And taking on so many chores this past week, from fixing the kitchen faucet, dealing with bugs in the backyard, taking our dogs to the vet, cleaning the entire basement, which are all things I did for him, but clearly, he was trying to take credit and kept on about how he does most chores around the house and working as well, so he had no me time. He said, basically, I handle everything in the house. While smug smiling. I was taken aback completely. I said hold on, because literally all the stuff he mentioned was done by me. His parents were like, huh? He kept staring at me confused as I explained in detail how I handled each and every one of those chores, which should have originally had been done by him, but he kept making excuses to get out of it. I even shared pictures I posted on Facebook, especially the basement like before/after pictures. I told him no more favors from now on if this is how he's gonna play. Silence followed, and the entire family side-eyed my husband as he kept looking away. He didn't say anything until we got home. That is where he pointed out how I was wrong for how I responded and should have just either agreed or said nothing at all, but apparently made him feel incompetent in front of his family. We argued, and he apologized for saying what he said and asked me to apologize so we could move past this, but I refused and said I was being treated in an unfair manner since I worked hard to do him those favors. And now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. He made you look lazy in front of your in-laws. And not only did he lie about taking the brunt of household responsibilities, but he specifically brought up chores that you both know you did. That's not okay and is purposefully putting you down in front of others. Not the a-hole. If he doesn't want to feel incompetent, then he shouldn't be incompetent. Not the a-hole. This would really bother me. Not only did he lie, but he did it in a way to make you look bad. I would be very cautious and watch out to be sure this doesn't become a pattern. I would be really uncomfortable with the whole thing. What's your say on this? Do you have a similar story? Comment below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.